The chrysalis of order hummed with the serene energy of 1,000 Vathari minds in perfect harmony. Its crystalline spires glittered against the blackness of space, organic curves pulsing with soft blue bioluminescence. Captain Elias Voss stood at attention in the grand atrium, his boots planted on the translucent floor that showed the swirling nebula below. Around him, the Galactic Harmony Council floated in their meditation pods, their crystalline bodies refracting light like living prisms. "You have done well, Captain Voss." The voice of High Luminary Evalis chimed through the chamber, melodic and weightless. "Your species has taken its first steps toward true enlightenment." Voss kept his face neutral, but his knuckles whitened behind his back. 3 years. 3 years since the armistice, since the last human warship had powered down its weapons. The USN Titan's Fist, his ship, now floated in the docking web like a caged beast, its railguns dormant, its hull entwined with creeping Vathari biogrowth. "Humanity's era of barbarism is over," said Scholar Prince Xylus, drifting forward on a cushion of anti-gravity. His faceted eyes gleamed with satisfaction. No more war, no more destruction, only unity. Voss forced himself to nod. "Unity," he repeated, the word tasting like ash. A hologram flickered to life above the council, a map of the galaxy. Human territories marked in dull grey, their former conquests now absorbed into the Federation's golden glow. "Your fleet will be repurposed," Evalis continued. "Transport vessels, agricultural tenders, tools of peace." A murmur of approval rippled through the assembled Vathari. Their kind had never known war. Their civilization had risen without conflict, without struggle. To them, humanity's history was a grotesque aberration. Voss clenched his jaw. He remembered the last battle, the Fist's railguns tearing through Korgoth dreadnoughts, the screams over comms as enemy ships shattered. He remembered the cost. "And you, Captain," Xylus said, smiling, "will serve as overseer of human compliance, a ceremonial role, of course, a symbol of your people's rehabilitation." The title hung in the air like a noose. Overseer, not a commander, not a warrior, a keeper of his own kind. "An honor," Voss said flatly. The council's glow brightened, pleased. They didn't hear the edge in his voice. They never did. The docking umbilical hissed as Voss stepped back onto the Titan's Fist. The corridors were too quiet. No clatter of Marines drilling. No rumble of engines at battle readiness. Just the soft hum of Vathari bio. Lights, their tendrils creeping along the bulkheads like ivy on a ruin. Lieutenant Mara Cole fell into step beside him, her cybernetic eye flickering as it scanned for surveillance drones. "How'd the sermon go?" she muttered. Voss didn't answer until they were inside his quarters, the door sealed behind them. "They're turning our ships into freighters," he said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. Real Earth whiskey smuggled past the Vatharis purity scans. Cole knocked hers back in one swallow. "Figures can't have the predators keeping their teeth." Outside the viewport, a Vathari Harmony vessel drifted past, its crystalline hull shimmering unarmed, undefended. The thought of what the Fist's railguns would do to it came unbidden, and Voss crushed it. "They're giving me a title," he said. "Overseer of Human Compliance." Cole snorted. "Sounds like a fancy word for zookeeper." Voss stared at his reflection in the glass. The scars, the tired eyes, the compliance collar around his throat, its soft blue light pulsing in time with the chrysalis rhythm. "You ever wonder," Cole said quietly, "if we made a mistake surrendering?" Voss' hand tightened around his glass. The armistice had saved billions, ended the war. But at what cost? A chime sounded, the Vatharist gentle reminder that his presence was requested in the grand atrium for evening meditation. Cole smirked. "Better go, Overseer. Wouldn't want to keep the enlightened ones waiting." Voss set down his glass. The whiskey burned in his throat, like fire, like defiance. The USN Titan's fist hung in its docking cradle, like a beast in chains. Vathari bio growths crawled across its hull, their vines creeping into weapon ports and sensor arrays. The once proud warship now looked like a relic, its edges softened by the creeping embrace of peace. Captain Elias Voss walked the empty corridors, his boots echoing against the deck. The crew moved like shadows, their uniforms clean but their eyes hollow. Compliance collars gleamed at their throats, a constant reminder of the Council's gift. A group of Vathari scholars drifted past, their crystalline bodies refracting the station's soft blue light. They didn't bother to acknowledge him. To them, he was just another tamed predator, a curiosity to be studied. The grand atrium buzzed with activity. Alien delegates from a dozen species lounged on floating biopods, sipping luminescent nectar. At the center of the chamber, scholar Prince Silas held court, his voice a melodic chime. "Observe," Silas said, gesturing to a hologram of the Titan's fist. "The human war, machine once so feared, now rests peacefully. Proof that even the most violent species can be refined." Laughter rippled through the crowd. A hulking Korgoth, Commander Drolk, leaned against a pillar, his scaled lips curled in a smirk. Refined, more like declawed. Voss clenched his fists but kept his face neutral. He had learned the hard way that outbursts only amused them. Silas floated closer, his bioluminescence pulsing with amusement. "Captain Voss, how fortunate you could join us. We were just discussing humanity's transformation." Voss forced a nod. "An honor, scholar, Prince." Drog pushed off the pillar, his tail flicking. "Tell me, Captain, does it bother you, knowing your people will never fight again?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Voss. He met Drog's gaze. "We follow the Council's wisdom," Silas chimed approvingly. "Such progress. Only 3 months ago, this one snarled like a cornered animal. Now he understands the beauty of harmony." More laughter. Voss' collar hummed, a warning. He exhaled slowly. Drog wasn't done. "I fought humans once. They were spirited. Now," he flicked a claw at Voss' uniform, "you might as well wear a servant's robe." A young Vathari acolyte floated forward. "Scholar, Prince, perhaps a demonstration. Show how far they've come." Silas brightened. "An excellent suggestion, Captain. Would you fetch us some refreshments?" The request hung in the air. A test, a humiliation. Voss's jaw tightened, but he bowed. "Of course." As he turned, Drog's voice followed him. "Look at that. The mighty human, fetching tea like a bonded servant." The laughter chased him out of the atrium. The Fist's mess hall was empty, except for Lieutenant Mara Cole. She sat in the corner, her cybernetic fingers tapping a silent rhythm on the table. Her eyes flicked up as Voss entered. "Let me guess," she said. "They made you play waiter." Voss slumped into a chair. "They're enjoying this." Cole's implant glowed faintly under her skin. "Of course they are." To them, were just pets learning tricks. A shadow passed over Voss' face. "We followed the treaties, disarmed, complied. And for what?" Cole leaned forward, her voice dropping. "You really think they'll ever see us as equals? The Vathari built their harmony by breaking anyone who resisted. We're just the latest project." Voss stared at his hands. "What choice do we have?" Cole's lips curled. "I saved something. Something they tried to erase." She slid a data chip across the table. Voss picked it up, frowning. "History," Cole whispered. "Our history." The chip's hologram flickered to life in Voss quarters. Battle footage from the Sirius campaign played, human ships cutting through Korgoth fleets, railguns tearing through hulls, fighters weaving through debris with impossible precision. Voss' breath caught. He had forgotten what they once were. A knock at the door. Cole entered, her expression grim. "They're coming for the AI cores next. full lobotomization, no more aggressive programming. Voss' fingers tightened around the chip. How long? 2 days. The hologram showed the Titan's fist in its prime, its guns blazing. Cole's voice was steel. They want us tame. Fine, let's remind them what wild really means. Outside, the Vathari drones hummed, pruning another weapon port. Voss smiled for the first time in months. Captain Elias Voss walked the empty corridors of the Titan's fist, his boots echoing against metal stripped of its purpose. The ship had been a beast once, a predator among the stars. Now it lay dormant, its teeth pulled, its claws sheathed. Vathari bio. Growth crept along the walls like ivy on a tombstone, their glowing tendrils pulsing softly in the dim light. Compliance, order, peace. He rounded a corner and nearly collided with Lieutenant Mara Cole. She stood with her back against a maintenance hatch, her cybernetic eye flickering in the shadows. The rest of the crew avoided him these days, ashamed, maybe, or just broken. But Cole's gaze was sharp, unyielding. "You look like hell, Captain," she said. Voss rubbed the compliance collar at his throat. The damn thing itched. Feel like it too. Cole glanced down the corridor, then jerked her chin toward the hatch. "Need to show you something." The maintenance bay was a tomb of forgotten parts, rusted tools, stripped wiring, the skeletal remains of weapon systems the Vathari had deemed unnecessary. Cole moved like a ghost through the clutter, her fingers dancing across a hidden panel. A hollow projector flickered to life, casting jagged blue light across the grime. Voss frowned. "That's Old Earth, Battle of Ceres, Fae." The footage was grainy, damaged, but unmistakable. Human ships outnumbered 3-1, turning the tide with sheer brutal audacity. Missiles streaked, railguns roared. A cruiser rammed an enemy flagship, tearing through its belly like a knife. "They erased it," Cole said quietly. "Scrubbed our databases, rewrote our history, made us forget what we were." She tapped her temple. "But they couldn't scrub this." Voss stared. Had seen combat, fought in the Korgoth Wars, led boarding actions against pirate strongholds. But this was something else. This was pride. Cole switched the feed. Another battle, another victory. "I've been collecting these, every scrap I could find, every moment they tried to bury." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The fist remembers too." Voss turned. "What? The A core?" "They lobotomized it, sure, but not completely." Cole's lips curled into something fierce. "It's still in there, waiting." Outside, the hum of Vathari drones filled the air, the sound of civilization, of control. Voss clenched his fists. "You're talking mutiny. I'm talking freedom." Cole stepped closer. "They took our ships, our weapons, our history, but they didn't take us." She gestured to the hollow, to the humans fighting, dying, winning. "This is who we are, and it's still in there, in you, in me, in every last one of us." A voice crackled over the ship's comms, soft, melodic, Vathari. "Captain Voss, report to Compliance Station Alpha for your midday evaluation." Cole's eye burned. "They'll keep cutting pieces off us until There's nothing left, until we're just tame." Voss looked at the hollow again, at the fire, the fury, the wildness. Then he reached out and shut it off. "Meet me here tonight," he said. "Midnight, bring whatever you've got." Cole nodded. No salute. No, sir. Just a promise as Voss walked back into the light. The collar around his throat felt heavier than ever. The maintenance bay smelled of ozone and old grease. The only place on the USN Titan's fist the Vatharis creeping bio. Growth hadn't touched. Captain Elias Voss knelt beside Lieutenant Mara Cole as she pried open an access panel with her cybernetic fingers. The dim emergency lights painted her face in jagged shadows. "You're sure about this?" Voss kept his voice low, though the Vathari surveillance drones rarely ventured this deep into the ships. Guts, Cole didn't look up. Positive, they lobotomized our weapons, scrubbed our databases, but they didn't understand what they were dealing with. Her implant flickered blue at her temple, syncing with the ship's dormant systems. The fist was built by humans, not just our hands, our minds, our anger. A spark jumped from the panel. The ship groaned. A sound Voss hadn't heard in years. Not since the surrender. Not since they'd clipped humanity's claws. Then the lights died. For 3 heartbeats, there was only darkness. Then the fist woke up. Emergency klaxons screamed to life as crimson battle. Lights flooded the corridors. The deck plates vibrated underfoot as ancient systems roared back online. Somewhere above them, the railgun turrets twitched, then rotated, shearing through the vines of Vathari bio, growth that had choked them for years. Cole grinned, wild and fierce. Told you. Voss sprinted for the bridge, Cole at his heels. Crewmen stumbled out of doorways, their eyes wide. Some still wore the compliance collars the Vathari had forced on them, their faces slack with disbelief. Captain. Ensign Reavers nearly bowled him over in the corridor. The fist. It's fighting back. The bio growth. It's burning off. Ahead, the bridge doors hissed open on their own. The main display flickered, then stabilized, showing the chrysalis of order hanging in space, and the fist's targeting systems locking onto it. The ship's AI voice, gritty and alive for the first time in years, echoed through the speakers. Combat protocols reinstated. Welcome back, Captain. Voss didn't hesitate. He reached up, grabbed the compliance collar around his neck, and yanked. The thin metal snapped like a twig. On the display, the fist's railguns charged, their barrels glowing white-hot. Cole slid into the weapons station, her fingers flying over the controls. They're hailing us, the Vathari. They're screaming. Voss didn't look away from the screen. Let them scream. Outside, the fist's engines flared, throwing off the last of the bio-growth. The ship shuddered, then moved, breaking free of the docking clamps like a beast, shaking off chains. The first railgun round tore through the chrysalis of orders, delicate crystalline spires. The second punched straight through its main reactor. The explosion lit up the void. On the bridge, the crew erupted into cheers. Someone was crying. Someone else was laughing. Voss just stood there, watching the fireball fade, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Power, Cole whooped, slamming her fist on the console. Hell yes, that's what happens when you piss off a sleeping giant. Voss turned to the crew. Their faces were alight with something Head thought the Vathari had erased. Listen up, he barked. The fist is ours again, but this isn't over. The Vathari think they tamed us. They think we're docile. He bared his teeth. Let's remind them what humans really are. The crew roared back, their voices shaking the bulkheads. Outside, the fist's engines flared again, and the ship leaped into the black. Cole leaned back in her chair, grinning. Where to, Captain? Voss didn't even have to think. The heart of their so-called harmony. The Aya's voice crackled over the speakers, dark and eager. Course plotted. Weapons hot. Let's show them wild. The fist surged forward, a blade unsheathed at last. The alarm screamed through the Titan's fist like a living thing. Red light bathed the bridge as Captain Elias Voss gripped the command console, his knuckles white. Outside the viewport, the Vathari Harmony fleet shimmered like delicate glass sculptures, beautiful, fragile, and utterly unprepared. All systems green. Lieutenant Mara Cole reported, her cybernetic eye flickering with targeting data. Railguns charged, point defenses hot. They're hailing us. Voss didn't bother looking at the comms officer. Ignore them. The fist shuddered as its engines roared to full power. Vathari bio growth still clung to parts of the hull, but the ship was alive again, hungry. Across the fleet, human vessels tore free of their restraints. their weapons systems blinking back online one by one. On the main screen, Scholar, Prince Silas's face appeared, his crystalline features twisted in disbelief. Captain Voss. This is an outrage. You violate the accords of Voss punched a button, cutting the transmission. Helm ramming speed. The fist lunged forward like a beast unleashed. The Vathari peacekeeper ship ahead barely had time to react before 12,000 tons of human warship plowed into its midsection. The crystalline hull shattered like sugar glass, fracturing into glittering debris that spun wildly into the void. Cole's fingers danced across her console. Enemy fleet is scattering. They're not even returning fire. Of course not, Voss muttered. They built their ships for parades, not war. A new alert blared. Korgath's signatures incoming. The tactical officer barked. Voss grinned. Now those might be fun. The reptilian Korgath warships surged into the fray, their jagged hulls bristling with plasma cannons. Commander Drolk's sneering face filled the screen. You dare break your chains, human. I'll enjoy putting you back in your cage. The fist rocked as the first plasma volley slammed into its shields. Cole cursed, her neural implant flaring as it processed the attack vectors. Shields at Faye, they're trying to flank us. Voss didn't flinch. Guns free, target their engines. The fist's railguns whined as they spun up, then unleashed a storm of tungsten slugs. The first Korgath ship exploded in a fireball, its engines torn to shreds. The second veered wildly, only to eat a full broadside from the fist's secondary batteries. Drolk's voice crackled over the comms, less confident now. You can't win this. The entire Harmony fleet will. Will what? Voss interrupted. Talk us to death? Cole suddenly stiffened, her implant flashing crimson. Captain Vathari command ship is powering up some kind of energy signature. Voss turned just in time to see the massive Vathari flagship pulse with eerie blue light. A beam lanced out, striking a nearby human frigate. The ship's shields flickered, then failed. The frigate's systems died instantly, its engines darkening as it drifted helplessly. Emp weapon, Cole hissed. They've been holding out on us. Voss's smile vanished. All ships, evasive maneuvers, target that flagship. The human fleet surged forward, but the Vathari beam weapon was already charging again. Silas's voice echoed across the comms, triumphant. You see, Captain, even your wildness has limits. Stand down, or we will. Cole's implant screamed a warning. She didn't hesitate. Emergency jump, now. The fist's warp drive engaged with a bone-shaking groan, yanking the ship into the swirling blue tunnel of subspace, just as the impeem sliced through where they'd been. On the bridge, the crew gasped for breath. Voss wiped sweat from his brow. That was too damn close. Cole's fingers flew over her console. We lost the Redemption and the Ironclad, but the rest of the fleet made it. Voss clenched his fists. Plot a course for the Vathari homeworld. The bridge fell silent. Even Cole looked up, startled. Sir. You heard me. Voss's voice was ice. They want to play with MP weapons. Let's show them what real war looks like. Silas's face reappeared on the screen, his glow dimmed with fear. We only sought to bring peace to. Voss leaned forward, his scarred face inches from the screen. You wanted tame, Silas, but you forgot something. Outside the viewport, the fist dropped out of warp directly above the Vathari homeworld. The planet's glittering cities stretched below. Undefended, beautiful human warships emerged from warp around them, their weapons humming to life. Voss smiled. You don't tame a storm, you survive it. The first railgun round streaked toward the planet. The USN Titan's fist tore through the void like a blade unsheathed, its hull still smoking from the battle at the edge of Vathari space. Inside the bridge, Captain Elias Voss gripped the armrests of his command chair. his knuckles white. The tactical display flickered before him, painting the Vathari homeworld in cold, clinical detail. Orbital defenses shimmered like delicate glass sculptures, beautiful, fragile. Status, Voss barked. Lieutenant Mara Cole's fingers danced across her console, her neural implant humming as it processed data faster than any organic mind. Shields at Fey railguns charged. Their defense grid is decorative, sir. No overlapping fields, no redundancy. It's like they never expected anyone to fight back. A grin split Voss's scarred face. Then let's give them a first lesson. The Fist's engines roared as it plunged toward the planet. Alarms blared across the Vathari homeworld, their harmonic chimes clashing with the sudden, ugly reality of war. The orbital peacekeeper ships, sleek, crystalline vessels designed for mediation, not combat, turned to intercept. Their formations were perfect, their movements synchronized like a dance. And then the Fist opened fire. Railgun slugs punched through the lead ship, its crystalline hull shattering like ice under a hammer. Debris spun wildly, colliding with two others in a chain reaction of destruction. The Vathari fleet scattered, their commanders' voices shrill over open channels. "This is an act of barbarism," a Vathari admiral cried. "Stand down, or face the judgment of the Galactic Harmony Council." Voss leaned forward, his voice a growl. "Judgment's ours today." Cole's implant flared as she rerouted power. "Their planetary shield is going up, patched, together nonsense. One good hit and IT'll collapse." Then hit it. The Fist's main cannon charged, its barrel glowing white hot. The shot lanced out, striking the shield's weakest node. For a heartbeat, the energy field held, then fractured like a dropped vase. The shield dissolved, leaving the planet bare. On the surface, the Harmony Council's spires gleamed under the sudden glare of unfiltered sunlight. Scholar Prince Silas stood in the grand atrium, his bioluminescence flickering with panic. Around him, other council members clutched at each other, their crystalline bodies trembling. "This cannot be," Silas whispered. "We tamed them. We civilized them." Above, the Fist descended like a storm. Drork, the Korgath commander, watched from a stolen shuttle, his reptilian eyes narrowed. Head fled the moment the human ships awoke, knowing better than to stand against them in open battle. Now, as the Fist rained fire upon the Vathari capital, he hissed in grim satisfaction. "Fools," he muttered. "You clipped the wolves' claws and thought them dogs." Voss stood at the edge of the bridge's viewport, watching the chaos below. The Fist's guns targeted strategic points, communication hubs, defense platforms, the Council's towers. Not indiscriminate slaughter. A message. Cole joined him, her implants still flickering. Their entire fleet's in retreat. No coordination, no resistance. They've never seen real war. Voss nodded. They built a galaxy where no one fought back, thought they could make us part of it. A transmission crackled through, Silas' voice, desperate. "Captain Voss, this madness must end. We saved you from yourselves." Voss keyed the response, his voice cold. "You didn't save us, you crippled us, and today we're reminding the galaxy what happens when you try." The Fist's final barrage struck the Council's central spire. The tower swayed, then toppled, its crystalline structure exploding into a million glittering shards. The light of the Vatharis, so-called enlightenment, winked out. Voss turned to Cole. "Open a galaxy-wide channel." She obeyed. Every ship, every world, every listening post would hear what came next. Voss's voice echoed across the stars. "This is Captain Elias Voss of the USN Titan's Fist." The Vathari thought they could tame humanity. They thought they could erase what we are today. We remind you all, we are not tame. We are not broken, and if any species, any council, any power in this galaxy ever tries to chain us again. He let the silence hang. "Well, show you wild." The transmission cut. The fist turned its nose toward the stars, leaving the Vaetheri homeworld burning softly behind it. Cole exhaled, her implant finally cooling. Think they'll get the message. Voss watched the planet shrink on the view screen. Oh, they'll get it. The whole galaxy will. And as the fist jumped to warp, the first embers of rebellion ignited on 100 conquered worlds. The USN Titan's fist hung in the void above the Vaetheri homeworld, its railguns still humming with residual heat. The once pristine orbital defenses lay in ruins, their crystalline fragments drifting like glittering dust in the solar winds. Below, the planet's surface bore the scars of humanity's wrath, smoldering craters where Harmony Towers had stood, their bioluminescent glow extinguished forever. Captain Elias Voss leaned back in his command chair, the weight of the last hours pressing against his ribs. The bridge crew moved with quiet efficiency, their faces grim but satisfied. Lieutenant Mara Cole stood beside him, her cybernetic eye flickering as she monitored the fleet status. "They're hailing us," comms officer Rivas said, his voice tight. "The Harmony Council again." Voss didn't bother looking at the screen. Put it on speaker. The bridge filled with the fragile wind chime voice of Scholar, Prince Silas. His crystalline form flickered weakly in the hollow display, cracks spider webbing across his body. "You've proven your point, Captain, must you?" "Must we what?" Voss interrupted. "Leave." "Oh, we're going. But not before you understand." Cole smirked, crossing her arms. "They won't, not really." Voss stood, his boots clicking against the deck as he approached the display. "You wanted us tame, docile. You thought you could prune us like one of your garden ships." He gestured to the viewport where the wreckage of the Vaetheri fleet drifted. "Look at what your civilization brought you." Zillus' glow dimmed. "We only sought peace." "Peace isn't surrender," Cole snapped. "You don't get to decide what we are." A silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Then Voss turned to Rivers. "Open a galaxy, wide channel." The comms officer's fingers flew over his console. "Ready, sir." Voss took a breath, his voice rolling out like thunder. "This is Captain Elias Voss of the USN Titan's fist, to the Galactic Harmony Council and every species listening. Humanity isn't yours to leash. We won't conquer you. We won't rule you." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But if you ever try to cage us again, we'll remind you why that's a bad idea." He cut the transmission. The bridge crew erupted in quiet cheers, shoulders relaxing for the first time in years. Cole exhaled sharply, her neural implant finally powering down. "Think they'll finally respect wildness now?" Voss laughed, low and dark. "No, but they'll fear it." The fist's engines flared to life, the ship turning its back on the broken world. Behind them, the Vaetheri homeworld shrank into the distance, its once gleaming cities now shadowed and silent. Ahead, the stars stretched infinite and unchained. Rivas leaned back in his chair, grinning. "Where to, Captain?" Voss didn't hesitate. "Home." The warp drive engaged, and the Titan's fist vanished into the void, leaving only the echoes of its warning behind. Across the galaxy, 100 species watched the broadcast in stunned silence. On a dozen worlds, human crews, once docile, once compliant, raised their heads. Weapons long dormant hummed back to life, compliance collars shattered under clenched fists, and somewhere, deep in the dark, the wildness of humanity stirred. The fist's AI core pulsed once, its voice echoing through the empty corridors. "Course set for Sol. Estimated arrival, fake hours." Cole stretched, rolling her shoulders. "Back to Earth. Think they'll throw us a parade?" Voss smirked. "Doubt it. Probably a court martial," she snorted. "Worth it." The stars blurred past the viewport, streaks of light against the black. For the first time in years, the ship felt alive, not a tamed beast, but a predator returning to its hunting grounds. Voss settled into his chair, watching the cosmos unfold. The galaxy had tried to break humanity. It had failed, and somewhere, in the quiet between the stars, the Vathari Council huddled in the ruins of their arrogance, wondering if they'd ever truly understood what they'd tried to tame. The Fist sailed on, its crew silent but unbroken. Behind them, the galaxy trembled. Ahead, the future waited, wild, unchained, and utterly human.